All right. So, welcome. Today, I'm going to be chatting about decision making, which is a very, very hot, very important topic um, in life and also in spirituality based off of the ego and then the intuition, you know, which is very, very up here, trying to, decide in the mind, make mental decisions, you know, um, contemplating it and kind of weighing out the pros and cons and, or, just feeling it out, as they say, and then making a decision from that place of a certain type of feeling, like this feels right, where I'm listening to my heart or I'm following my heart. Um, and indeed, the uh, logic, the intellect, and the ego is supposed to serve the soul. They're supposed to really, really work hand in hand. But sometimes we are, our heads spinning with so many options. Um, and it's just crazy, it's overwhelming, it can be maybe it's maddening, can really, maybe we can get into a prison of our own making, trying to stand at the, concession stand, trying to decide what food or drink that we want. Maybe it is, because I remember way back in 2016, I was going to, Lydia Bastianich's restaurant in Kansas City, Missouri, and I was looking at the long list of options of food on the menu, and I was very scattered, maybe frazzled. I was very, um, I was very, very overwhelmed. And the sky is the limit when it came to the decisions that I could make. I could make the decision to reach up and I could feel the sky light up. I actually had a dream that I remember touching the sky. But it needs to be grounded and it needs to be down to earth enough to where, okay, I'm making this decision. It could be as simple as if you were like Shady and Agonye from The Good Place, if you can remember, him in decision making, and um, I do uh, have labor mood. So anyway, um, he was standing around trying to make a decision about which hat would look better on him. Would it be a red, uh, a white hat, or a brown hat? And so he stood there contemplating and manipulating sort of his mind to be able to control the decision and then getting very, very worked up and nervous, because of the decision, the importance of decision, and having to weigh all the factors and stand there for, hours and ages trying to make a decision over something as simple as choosing um, a blueberry muffin or a banana muffin, cheesecake or tiramisu, this or that. Am I going to take this person to marry, or am I going to take person A or person B, one or the other? And often, there can be more than just two decisions. It's more than just two decisions. You know, it could be which light bulb works better, which sink would better serve me in my bathroom. All these types of decisions. It could be the major life decisions or the small, simple decisions. And I could be specific and general about it at the same time. But, um, the point is it's really, really important to consider, if you're thinking about a pyramid, with the levels going down of, what is at the top, and then what is just below it, and then what is below it and below it. And obviously, you want what is at the top, what is calling your name. But sometimes it can be hard to reach the top. It can be hard to be able to discern what is at the top as opposed to what really feels right for me and making decisions and then regretting and reversing or wanting to reverse the decisions back in hand later on as we walk through our field of dreams and we don't go down the right path. And then we discover that we're in this path which has all these evil flowers and vines that could get us. Like I remember seeing, so many. Like I remember seeing the movie Jumanji. I remember reading Gregor the Overlander, Curse of the Warm Bloods, and in that book, there was this one scene where the flowers were so beautiful, but then vines started, strapping onto these people, wrapping their um, green bodies, if you will, around them and kind of rotating and um, cursing him because of, the bad decision that he made of going to that part in the forest in which now he really, really regrets it. So, uh, it could be that, if you've ever heard of fork in the road, if you've ever seen, it's not, I don't know of a book or movie called The Fork in the Road, but I do happen to know there is a card from Colette Baron Rees, um, who is an oracle card expert and also a renowned spiritual teacher. And she runs Oracle Circle and Oracle School, and she is also a best-selling spiritual book author as well. So, um, if you're thinking about a fork in the road, if you're thinking about a horse or a donkey or a dog or a human being coming to that crossroads and needing to decide, am I going to go left or right? It's just a common thing. Like I remember watching this movie, or this documentary. It was called "I Survived," and in this episode, it wasn't called "I Survived." It was called "I Shouldn't Be Alive." And a lot of these situations and pickles that these people get themselves into are very independent. They are independent variables in which they can control. They can decide where they are going to insert themselves into or what path they're going to be going on. And this can be literal, this can certainly be metaphorical, or it can be physical as well. So, physical paths. Now, I remember this guy was trying to find an outlet and resources and an oasis and a place for them to find hope, find hope for his family, find that shelter, which then they would feel secure, which would be their home. So he was going on ahead because they were all very weak and they all needed water, they all needed food, they were very very dehydrated. They were very in the pits. They were very desperate. They were depressed. They were at a pretty low place. And what ended up having to happen was the father got himself into a sticky situation and a mucky, icky situation, driving the car into this ditch in which it got stuck, and then having to go to this place, get information, maybe have somebody, you know, come with his tools, go back over to this place where then he would be like a mechanic fixing the car, getting them back to the state that they want to be in, getting everyone all equipped and getting everything taken care of so that they could go on their merry way back home. So the mother and children, the daughters, all of them had to stay behind while the father went ahead on this journey, um, or on this almost death journey because they barely survived. It was just so very tragic, that he went on this path, and instead of going the direction in which he would veer off the desert, he would go to the town or go to the nearest destination where he would be able to find these resources, find the help. He ended up taking the path which would take him further into the desert, and it did not serve him any, and he ended up regretting it, and then he got himself more lost and more depressed and sad and miserable and very, very devastated as well. So, and he didn't intend for that. He did not have any purpose or intention upon choosing choosing the wrong path. That was just what occurred. He did choose the wrong path. And so, uh, and I remember watching something about intuition as being the feeling which lets you know what is right. And it also tells you what is wrong. And so, with intuition, it's just a feeling that is enough of a feeling that you can tap into it and feel it and like, okay, this is what I need to do. This is where I need to go. This is the park that I would rather go to as opposed to this park. This is the job that I need to uh, sign this contract for to be able to go in and start work rather than this job because the boss is not going to serve me. The boss, sounds like somebody who will not necessarily always be there for me, and it won't be as fair and just, convenient, and beneficial to me. And so I need to choose this position. So it's these sort of things, it's these sort of moments where we feel like, okay, this is the decision. Now, there's two different sides to it. There is one being so rigid and not bending like bamboo, and not, being so set and structured and put in your ways that you don't want to, that it's hard to be open because you're so set. Set the structure, set the decision, set the plan, and you're going to follow it to the ends of the earth. Now, on the other side, there is a being who is at the moment very, very open, incredibly open to these new little epiphanies, these new possibilities, these new experiences, these new opportunities, but you can't decide what you want to do in your life. You can't decide which school that you want to go in. You can't decide which job would be a better position. It's not clear because it's so much, in the mind getting yourself worked up with the same sort of hamster wheel. If you think about the clothes in a washer just spinning around, and the door didn't open where they could get off that hamster wheel and then be able to get the air from the outside. Just like, you know, if you're sleeping and you need, the door to be open to let in the fresh air if you're in your house, needing that refreshment, needing that new sort of shortcut from the continual working yourself up in the mind. And it requires the open windows to give the fresh air, fresh new beginnings, fresh new perspectives. And I also want to point out, when you take a walk, when you go outside, when you interact with nature, interact with Mother Earth and get the fresh air, really, really feel it in your body and on your body. Even if it's very, very cold, it energizes you, it revives you, it gives you hope, and it can possibly clear your head and give you clarity. And looking at nature is supposed to be very beneficial for mental health as well. And you know I know that if I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a stone, if I'm stuck between having to choose A or B, um, then a coin flip would help, where I have two sides and I flip it, and then this would go out. And you know oracle cards would also be a wonderful source to help give insight and to help give a little bit of advice and knowledge and um, just information about your situation that in the mind, in the intellect, you can't really come up with or think or imagine or realize. So, that's another thing as well. Um, but so, decision making and how you can make the best, most feel good type of decisions where you feel confident in yourself. Because you could go, what if, what if, what if? You could be going on and on and on and on in your mind, asking that sort of question when really the situation at hand can require you to make a choice, make some sort of decision. Just go for it. Just do it sometimes. Now, to further get into decision making, weighing the pros and cons, and there's many, many ways to weigh the pros and cons. There are many ways. You can take out a sheet of paper and you can make a little chart. What are the pros, the positives, the cons, the negatives, or the setbacks or hindrances to making this decision? What are the positives that I'm going to gain from this, and what am I going to lose if I make this decision? What is not going to make me feel like I have rose to the top of that mountain and achieved what I want to achieve and gone down the right path? So weighing out those pros and cons, and sometimes they're very, very equal. And when they're equal, maybe then a coin flip would be most appropriate. And I'm not restricting the coin flip. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, you can't do that, you know, without going through the process of jotting down or weighing all the pros and cons first. No, it's what would be comfortable as well, but it's just taking action, making the decision. There's a quote that I remember reading once that I don't necessarily remember who said it, who wrote it, but it goes something like this. The best way to do it is just to, you know, roll up your sleeves and, really get your head in gear and to do it, to take action. Now, yeah, I'm reading an article. This is an article from Psychology Today, decision making. And before I go on to that, because it is going to involve several things, involve maybe explaining and maybe bringing in or emphasizing new things. Who knows? But before I do that, I'm going to just grab something. Oh, good grief. Okay, now, decision making. Okay, so this is what it says. And you can find this article, and I'll be going through it and maybe explaining a couple of things as I do that. But it says Psychology Today, and it says decision making. This is what it says. So, chocolate or strawberry, life or death. We make some choices quickly and automatically, relying on mental shortcuts. So, the intellect, the logic, A plus B equals C sort of thing. So, the mental structures our brains have developed over the years to guide us in the best course of action. Understanding strategies such as maximizing versus satisfying, fast versus slow thinking, you know, big versus small, um, leafy versus, um, the leaves off the trees, sort of thinking, uh, war or peace as well. So, factors such as risk tolerance and choice overload can lead to better outcomes. So, this says the art of decision making. When making a decision, we form opinions and choose actions via mental processes, which are influenced by biases or preferences of how we feel about certain situations, reason, uh, our emotions, how we feel about this, and memories. Memories. Could also be, I also want to, because this sort of light bulb is sort of turning on, memories as well. Like if you have an anxiety, like let's say, because like let's say there is this restaurant, and indeed this um did happen to me, where it was a hibachi restaurant and I was very small at the time, and my family and I, we were going into this restaurant, and I didn't think much of it. I didn't think that there would be any negatives or anything that I would be afraid about or anything I would um be like, oh, I don't feel okay with this, on this uh checkered um chess game of uh God or the divine checkerboard. Um this is not for me. I didn't think that until I got in, and then I saw this grill that was just lining the table. And for those who have been to, hibachi type restaurants, I think, that you may be familiar with this, which is like a Japanese style of grilling different types of things. And so I got into this place, and the cook, when he came over, he started putting these things on the grill, and he, started asking, how would you like your meat cooked? How would you like your fish cooked? Medium, rare, um, well done, all these types of things like that. What would you like? And so, we sat there and we ordered what we were going to get, and told the chef, wearing his white chef hat, and you know uh, so, you know like the jackets that they wear. And I don't think that he was Asian. I don't believe so. But so pretty soon after that, you know, I saw the, oils, vinegars, or, whatever, liquid ingredients, liquidating, that he was putting on this grill. And then all of a sudden, it shocked the heck out of me. It startled me, and it definitely created that sort of negative experience, which was, um, not traumatic, but it definitely held that sort of shadow compass in my mind, not to go to this shadow place, not to go to the shadow woods, which would be this restaurant. So it definitely created a negative experience, and it definitely did not give me any persuasion to want to go back there. So, how these different types of things can form associations, form experiences, form preferences or opinions or feelings, anxieties, and fear in this case of this sort of thing, where put things in categories in your mind. I'm associating, or I associated the restaurant as being bad. Anxiety writing, for example. So, um, or it could be, good memories. It could be, um, a birthday that you were to go to, a birthday party which had all the, you know, um, multicolored, um, jackets that were lined up, and they were all different types of colors in which you would take to that party. And, of course, then you have to stand there and decide which jacket do I want to take. Do I want, red one, yellow one? But so you would go to this place, and the energy would be very amped up. It would be very fun. It would be very exhilarating. It would be very worthwhile. You would enjoy it. And, um, with cake and, balloons and pizza and laughter and party hats and blowing out the candles, y- those types of things. Those definitely really, really seem to create those types of memories. So, Good memories, bad memories. So the simple act of deciding supports the notion that we have free will. We weigh the benefits and costs of our choices. I remember seeing a movie. It was called The Giver, and Meryl Streep, who played the sort of leader of these communities, um, calm and beautiful places where disorder becomes harmony, destroying the complexities, making life literally, figuratively, metaphorically, black and white. She decided when people have the freedom to choose, they choose wrong every time. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, but it was when, spoilers, Jonah decided that he would push the boundaries, that he would go beyond the border, that he would go beyond that line in the sand, which was like, no, this is the boundary. Um, with the confidence in himself for the decision that he made. And, a lyric from Susan Boyle's To Dream the Impossible Dream. And although, she didn't create the song, compose the song, and I have her channel link, certainly, to march into hell for a heavenly cause. But you know what? It takes the conviction, it takes the confidence in yourself, believing in yourself, making the decision. So the freedom to decide, the freedom to make our own choices for what we want to do and with our lives in small ways or big ways. Okay, so there's a range of these different types of things, but regardless. So we weigh the benefits and costs of our choices, and then we cope with the consequences. Factors that limit the ability to make good decisions include missing or incomplete information, where you need to have all the facts on the, data charts, sort of gathered up, urgent deadlines, and limited physical or emotional resources. So, these all these things can be disadvantages and hindrances. So I'm going to move on. What are the different types of decision making? So when people are put in a familiar situation, their decisions are often fast and automatic, based on long time experiences with what works and what doesn't work. The saying, been there, done that, or, we live and we learn. Okay, well, I made this decision one time. Oh, that didn't work out. I am not going to do it again. And, going back upon what I was talking about earlier, as well, through those experiences, oh, tried that, didn't work. You know, I tried going past the town where I would get to rest my dogs and my body and my soul. Uh, if I'm on the Iditarod, and I went past that place and it was nighttime because I thought that I could take the risk, and now I'm stranded and now I'm weak and tired and I regret that. So, it's that sort of thing. We live and we learn. So, however, when encountering a situation that they've never been in before, they have to take time to weigh the benefits and risks when choosing a course of action. They are more likely to make mistakes and face negative consequences. Decisions have consequences, and consequences do not always have to be negative consequences, like punishments. Like, I don't get why we use the word grounded. Like, you're grounded. Like, I heard the word grounded meaning punished before I got into astrology and learned about the earth element and signs Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn to learn that grounded actually means practical and down to earth. So I honestly believe that that word should not be punished. Well, I believe that there's something to that. You're punished, you get grounded, you get more practical as you go through life not to do this again. And if I decide to be sneaky and decide to sneak, because I was watching a Darman film the other day where um, this person pretended to be a grandpa, which was actually his older brother with his kid, his younger brother, and they decided to sneak candy into the movies. How do you think that turned out? Uh, and spoilers, the younger kid who really, really wanted to see this movie got to see, but the older brother had to leave, and the mother came and found out. So, anyway, sorry to spoil that for everybody. Um, that Darman film, but anyway, um, so uh, so weighing the pros and cons before we do this. So negative consequences, or positive consequences. Like, for example, a very, very common one is how much time and effort that I'm putting into my homework. If I am really studying for the test the night before and putting in time, putting in the time and the effort to do this, then, I do better. And I reap the benefit and rewards of doing that. And, when you choose something, you also lose something. Like, for instance, if I am doing it, it's very, very economical. It can relate to economics, where I am choosing now to do this live stream. There are other things I also could be doing. I mean, I could be doing a million things, but that's just an example. So, moving forward, I mean, I could list so many examples, but you get it. So, what is informed decision making? The ability to think critically, critical thinking, being able to kind of really be the connoisseur, if you will, of thoughts, of being able to make judgments, to be able to decide and make little judgments over, say, if I'm going to a restaurant, for example, and I am really feeling in the mood for something very light, very fresh, very also fragrant and beautiful. Um, so I wouldn't decide to get ravioli, or I wouldn't decide to get the um, fettuccine alfredo. Judgments. I prefer. I'm allergic to this, or I don't do meat. Vegans out there. So judging that, I'm gonna decide to do this. You know, it reminds me of a skit that I was watching. It was so funny. SNL. It was a skit about a drive-through window, and in this drive-through window, it was so funny because people could not decide what they wanted. And there's another thing, another skit with a man, episode after episode, like 2 hours later, still can decide the way. But it's so anyway, they kept going back and forth. I don't like, I'm not a meat person. I don't do meat. I don't want pickles on my burger. I don't care for mustard. So it kept going back and forth. I don't want, I just want bread. I don't want the fish burger. And in the end, he decided, you know, 5 or however many people were in their burgers with everything on it so that they then could get it and pick out the parts that they didn't like so that it would be easier for everyone, and make the process go quicker. So that's what ended up happening. Um, Spoilers with that as well. So, anyway, um, so, uh, thinking critically, making good decisions without succumbing to common errors or bias. So, this means not just going with your gut, but rather, because remember, it's a combination of the feeling and then the intellect, where it can be both and. Okay, this feels right. Well, does this make sense? Does A plus B equal C? Well, yes, it does, but in the situation, um, doesn't make sense. So, but rather figuring out what knowledge you lack and obtaining the knowledge to be able to make the choice. So when you look at so keeping an open mind as well. Again, open mindedness is very important. Um, so not kicking off the intuition like that weird sense, that sixth weird sense where intuition is really put on the back burner as opposed to logic, as opposed to mathematical, analytical, um, very practical thinking. Um, so, how to make good decisions? How do we choose between two or more options that could seem equally appealing on the surface? Decision making. Okay, now this is the other thing that I want to talk about. There's a card from a oracle deck called Wisdom of the Oracle, or Woto, as it's called. It reminds me of um, a hedgehog that you would get from Valentine's Day, Woto, um, which is a really neat and cute name. But so it's called All That Glitters, and sometimes we make decisions based off of the surface view. Now, astrologically, Scorpio is the sign that is really all about, if you're going to make a decision, you have to be all in or out. No in between, no mediocrity. If you make this decision, you better pursue it with quality and excellence. Scorpio, Capricorn, real focus, real commitment. Uh, and you know, really getting to the bottom of these different choices, weighing the pros and cons very deeply as opposed to very shallow and very surfacey. Um, and, I am making the decision now to speak more creatively. And, I remember developing, improving how I was speaking. And I made the decision to do that because of, another thing too. Maybe you make decisions for the long term. Maybe at the current time, it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel good. But then later on, you decide to but later on, you decide to, that you feel good going down the road to Southampton. um, y- y- with the decision that you make, I'm making the decision to really open up how I'm talking and to be able to cultivate a more creative way of talking. And I hope that in the future, it'll just be like, oh, I didn't even have to overthink. I just talk so creatively and vividly as well. Uh, critical factors. Um, so, decision making involves a mixture of intuition and rational thinking. Think of that scale. We must balance these two out. You know, and I'm just thinking about the astrology because I'm filming this video in March, and I'm thinking about the astrology of all the planets, or most of the planets. Now, all the planets are in the last three signs of the zodiac. So we have Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Aquarius is all detached. It's very about the technology, the data, the information, the out of the box ideas and concepts. And then Pisces is very dreamy. It's all about the intuition, it's all about the feeling. And it's all about, if you think about fish swimming in either direction, they go wherever the wind takes them, you know. And now I'm seeing Pocahontas stand on that high cliff wherever the wind takes her, and the beautiful hair with it, listen to your heart, then you'll understand, listening to your heart as opposed to your head all the time. So to be able to balance these two out. And I think that it's a very wonderful time to discuss this because of what is going on in the heavens astrologically. So, um, so intuition, rational thinking, critical factors, including personal bases and blind spots or things you don't always see, things that are hidden from you that you really need to investigate to be able to find out, you know. Yeah, go to the basement and uncover those things. um, they're often unconscious, which makes decision making hard to fully um, opportunize or to get a handle on. However, there are steps to ensure that people make consistently excellent choices, including gathering as much information as possible before making the decision. Gathering all the facts, gathering up all the data for you to then effectively make the choice that you need to make, considering all the alternatives, all of the angles of the situation, all of the angles. Maybe, there's many, maybe I'm going to somebody else and I'm asking, what do they think about this? What is their perception or view of this situation and what can they teach me about this? So, as well as there are attendant um, attendant benefits and costs, and taking the time to sleep or weigh decisions. They use the saying, "sleep on it." And I remember watching Karate Kid where these kids, um, it's not a funny thing at all, so I shouldn't be laughing, but these kids came in and pressured him and forced him to sign this thing for this karate championship thing. And they said sleep on it, and then they left, and then they took his, you know, bonsai plants and, caused destruction. Uh, and the point of that is, well, he would have slept on it, and he still would have felt just the same. So, yeah, you feel unclear, and then you sort of mull it over, you sleep on it, you wake up, and then boom, you have a decision. So, um, how do you know if you made a good decision? So, in life, there is often no right decision. So, when surrounded by an abundance of options, it's easy to experience decision paralysis, or as they say, analysis paralysis. And I think touches on what I talked about earlier. So, or they feel less satisfied with your decisions, analyzing it, judging it, critical, to make sure that it is as high up onto the market as they can possibly get it. um, I just made that up. So, you know, and again, it's a very economic thing to think about decisions. how are we going to, I mean, I'm in economics, let me just admit it. So, decisions are the stuff of economics. How are we going to make this product wide widely available to different people? What is the most effective way to be able to sell this product to people, and get them to come in and then trade, you know, and be able to buy this and enjoy it and find it easy and beneficial for their lives, or whatever the benefits of the product may be. But so you may even blame yourself when really you are going through choice overload. Or the key is to find ways to simplify your decisions. Simplify, simplification, and not ruminate over the many roads that take it. Not be in the decisive state, not keep thinking. Just do it. Just decide. What skills are necessary when making decisions? Decision making can put on a lot of stress. Follow through is essential. You may need to accept the panic, fear, and lack. Be willing to pay the price. Like, for instance, there was a movie that I saw, and it was a film about this man on wires, this tightrope walker. And he was walking on this tightrope, and it was between the Twin Towers before, 9/11 occurred, obviously. And he was walking across these Twin Towers. He knew beforehand that police would probably be finding it out and, finding him out and then arresting him. Unlike, the we call it kind of Monte Cristo, when that wasn't, had nothing to do with it. But that's a whole nother can of worms. But so accepting the fear, panic, and lack of self confidence that are often part of the decision making process, like weighing those pros and cons. So it's crucial to get enough sleep so you can think clearly. Try to keep your priorities straight. Carefully weigh the trade offs. Commit to a decision, then follow through on it. So now we're going to be, and again, commitment, following through, making a choice and sticking to it. Oh, but here's the other thing, not being afraid to change your mind. If it doesn't feel right, change it. But be decisive, follow through. Like, okay, I'm going to be decisive about this. If it doesn't feel right, I'm going to give myself permission. Giving yourself permission, because often we're so external. We look to other people to give us the validation. Um, you know, it can be as small as, if I am putting ice cream in a bowl, for instance, how much ice cream do I need? Like, do I need more ice cream? Is this good enough? Should I have more? And indeed, uh, this sort of thing. So, yeah, sometimes it takes that deciding from within. And with the North Node and Taurus, making your own decisions, making your own choices, and taking on some of that sort of responsibility and independence in your life. Um, so avoiding bad decisions. So, um, demonstrating that people are not always rational when it comes to decision making. Fortunately, most personal and professional choices have few or no long term negative consequences. However, sometimes a person has to make a decision that will have a profound impact on their future. A big decision, that is. From who they marry to, and I was just thinking this and I saw it. written down on this page, Psychology Today. Isn't that so neat? To where they live, to how they manage their professional careers. In these cases, it's important to avoid the common pitfalls that can lead to poor decision making. These can include doing too little or too much research, mistaking opinions for facts, decision fatigue, a failure to learn from past errors, and more. I think another key point is coming out of that sort of maybe denial. Who knows? So now, how can you help someone who makes bad decisions? So don't try to make the decisions you would make. Try to really walk along and put yourself in that person's situation. Put yourself in that person's shoes. If I was this person, what would feel right to me? If I was this person, what would I decide? What would I feel comfortable with? What would I feel sure and certain about if I was this person in this given situation? So, or railroad them into simply acting quickly if they are facilitating about an important uh, matter. Inspire them. Like, if you have somebody, like if your mother, for instance, was at the store and reading the labels, with your glasses, reading the fine print, trying to decide, do I want uh, carrots or celery? Do I want, A or B? Well, really, salt and pepper go hand in hand. Like, okay, make a decision. Weighing down the decisions, being able to discern, okay, this decision is a small one. Let's just decide it doesn't matter. I also think that it takes some detachment as well. I also think that there's some detachment, which goes on with that healthy detachment, of course. And indeed, that is a common and recurrent theme that comes into situations in my mind often. And it, pushes me to bring it up. So, and then weighing the more important decisions again. So, yeah, these things kind of just keep coming back. So, cultivate qualities of mind that will serve beyond just the moment. You know, not just getting mad at somebody in a courtroom in the moment. It feels so good in the moment. But the negative consequence, that person's probably going to be very, very hurt because I called them a bad name or something. When I criticize people, I express how I feel. I don't, I do it in a way that does not call them out unnecessarily. I'm not interested in the definitive things like, okay, that's bad. No smoking, no cursing. Okay, yep, that's bad. I'm not that interested in it. When you get to the more subjective things like, you know, should I, for instance, should I read this book for this class or should I read another book? Staying in the box, but doing something else. Just anything that's more subjective. Um, I think however I would define it. So um, rather help them cultivate qualities of mind that they okay yeah again encouraging them to think through their options by simply and respectfully asking questions like what do you think, what are you going to benefit from this, what are you going to uh, how am I going to be able to live a better life with this or not, those sort of questions. So there are two types of rationalization that people commonly engage in: perspective and retrospective. When a person says, um, in retrospect, they mean like, oh, looking back, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have said this. I wish I would have made a sentence. Like, later, like if you're presenting a speech to a committee, for instance, and you have this proposal of a plan or an idea to maybe raise the taxes higher if it's a very, financial committee. And I'm just kind of creating this as I go along, improvising, uh, improving, and improvising, just a kind of combination with that. But going through that experience and then going back and going, in retrospect, I wish I would have said this or done this. I wish I would have lowered the taxes instead of raised them if I would be maybe a government official, let's say. Like another example in the good place is when, I think somebody who passed down the road of heaven and died and ended up, I ever lost or, the good place, uh, or the imitation. Sorry, didn't mean to spoil that, but uh, where Kristen Bell said, uh, you know, okay, these are the rules, you know, I have a video on a screen, the sky saying, okay, these are the rules, these are what you need to know, let me show you around, let me give you a tour. And this lady was like, um, or, I don't know. Um, I don't know, maybe you should be damned or something, but, I'm not totally sure about the uh, instance, but I, I think I remember something in retrospect. In retrospect, in the long run, you know, I think that those are kind of, well, maybe linked in some way. So, uh, so perspective rationalizing is when we rationalize a decision before making it. Whereas retrospective rationalizing refers to rationalizing a decision after the fact. Like I don't know if it's like an autobiography or something written, like a secondary source written, because I have a video on introduction to history and a secondary source written after the fact, written after the war or the uh, revolution occurred um, in history. So, that's another thing there as well. And primary sources, of course, were doing that. So, anyway, that was a very long, lengthy, very in depth live stream, which did have a lot of information and examples in it about decision making. So, I'm going to shut this down now. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can see future videos from me. Goodbye. Have a wonderful rest of your day.